That's right. In this video, I get real personal with the super fresh Samsung Q990F, the 6th version with a bar this shape. Art, science, nature, theology have all deemed it the best shape. It's as good as you're ever gonna get, though it seems the sub was not the best shape and got redesigned in honor of the new Minecraft movie. In my big Comparo end of the year 2024 video, I did have the Q900 system as the best value amongst the competitors, but frankly low on the list on cinema performance ranking amongst the most formidable challengers, which on average cost much more. Is it 2024?
Everything was accented with bows.
No, it's not. Is this a new 2025 bar with a new bar smell? Yes, it is. So we're gonna wipe the slate clean. No bias, I'll just be channeling truth to the lizard part of your brain. Design and build, the bar. It's gone through a number of wardrobe changes. The scratchy suit, the slightly less scratchy suit, the baby suit, darker tan, and a stylish new roof. Yes, the Q990F has a horizontal metal ridged, plastic ridged top that looks quite distinct from all previous models. The construction is a bit more refined as the top grille does not spill over to the back. The reflectivity on the top can make the bar look lighter than in years past, and the body color darkening reversed and went back to Titan Black, also referred to as Nightmare Gray, also known as the 2023 Q990C color. A weird reversal from the D's Graphite Black that had the bar looking its darkest and sharpest. You'll find the same metal grille covering the front and sides. The display is off on the right. Still a dot matrix scroller, and we got the same 4 clickety bar controls up top. There is one little detail that I find vindicating: the ports. Even though still awkwardly situated on the bottom and off to the side, they're given a little more breathing space so you don't have to bend your HDMI cables quite so much. What this means is I should double down on talking about port design. The surrounds look exactly like the Q990C. The only difference is that this letter down here says F, not C. At heart, they're still your very normal rectangular prism, though they sit on a built-in pedestal and the sides and top have a strange curve to them, supposedly for acoustic advantages. They're made of the same material as the bar, and you plug in on the bottom with a 90-degree angled 2-prong power cord, Samsung's preferred power cord head, in case you need a longer wire than the 5 feet provided one. Yes, the big mover and shaker and shrinker this year is the sub. It went from the typical South Korean sub in a soundbar kit shape to something closer to what SVS would put out. It's got some heft to it given its size and has 2 opposing woofers. On the whole, it's gray and dull, but with some visual relief coming from the rounded edges and the exposed woofers and ridges on the side. The system's design and build is perfectly adequate for the segment, though it's clear it's not where Samsung wants to peacock. Driver array and channels. For the last 3 years, it's been a 22 driver system. The Q990F added a woofer, so we have 23 drivers to work with now. The bar still has 15 drivers. Exact specifications are not given, but if years past hold, there are 3 tweeters, 6 racetrack woofers, and 6 other full-range woofers. There is a left, center, and right channel up front, all dual woofer plus tweeter trios, a left and right surround, and left and right wide angle on the slightly rearward angled side, which bounces sound backwards and then off a sidewall and then off the water tower to simulate speakers that would be situated between the traditional front and side speakers. And of course, we have our left and right upward firing front height channels, as putting speakers in the ceiling is hero work, and we can't all be heroes. All the non-forward drivers are full range woofers, I think, but correct me if I'm wrong. The surrounds are by default meant to be placed in the back, but can also be placed in the front through a settings change. I'll discuss in the sound quality chapter. Anyway, the surrounds are still 3 full-range woofers if tradition holds. Samsung's not fully transparent on this. 1 in the front, 1 on the respective side, and 1 on top. The sub housing, while smaller than previous years, has 2 opposing 8-inch woofers, which are both a little bigger than the single woofer of previous generations, which was a little shy of 8 inches. It is advertised as being able to handle a clean 32 Hz and is 300 watts as opposed to 200 watts on the Q990D. While an official bottom frequency range was not advertised, ratings.com did claim that the D went down to 27.5 Hz, perhaps with a dose of distortion and lackadaisical, which, fun fact, was the #1 big word for high school coaches from 1996 to 2000. Codec support. Samsung's always been pretty solid on this front, supporting Dolby, DTS, and LPCM. With the F, they are adding support for a new audio format they co-developed with Google called Eclipse. This is meant to be the people's Atmos, being open source and I'd say targeted for enhancing YouTube videos, maybe lower budget productions, as a starting goal at least. I think we'll see if it's worth talking about more in the coming years, as there may be more content and more hardware to support. Ports. eARC and 2 2.1 HDMI inputs. Yes, and optical down there, all by its blurry self. Just enough inputs so I don't get sassy. HDR10 Plus is supported and Dolby Vision, though they'll never admit it in the specs. The USB port is still on the bottom where most people would look for it, and still just for updates, which can and should be done over the air through the app. Wireless connectivity. As with the D, there is a strong showing, nothing particularly notable from a first-party perspective, but it adopts the big 3: Bluetooth, AirPlay 2, and Chromecast, the latter 2 supporting multi-room audio. Also, the F keeps Roon support for the few that may be part of that ecosystem. In addition, you have Spotify and Tidal Connect. Tidal did change its lossless format from MQA, which was not widely supported, to FLAC, which is widely supported, including on the Q990F. Also, as in previous models, there is a built-in mic for direct access to Amazon's Blue Girl and Google's Multicolored Girl. The mic has a dedicated mute button on the bar for those whose conversations are too interesting to share. If connecting your bar to your TV with an HDMI cable is beyond your reach, you still have the wireless Atmos option that allows you to maintain lossless audio quality with a wireless connection between the bar and TV. I have not been super impressed with the reliability of this wireless connection, which in my experience is associated with somewhat regular dropouts in sound. It's quite possible a 2025 TV and a 2025 soundbar performs better than previous attempts. This would be something I may test in follow-up reviews. Sound adjustments. I always dislike this part because it's fairly expansive, but yet I always feel like I need to tell you everything. I mean, you guys. High level, you have room correction technology, SpaceFit Sound Pro,
Plus,
which periodically and silently optimizes the sound to your space, including your wife's furniture. Active Voice Amplifier Pro, which responds to room sounds like vacuums and adjusts to TV sounds to help naturally bring out voice if the sound effects are a bit overbearing. Both of these can be toggled on and off. Next layer down, you have sound modes, just 4 of them, not 45 like some competitors, including your plain unadorned vanilla standard, where it's not going to tinker too much with the EQ and will only use channels called upon. Surround, game, and adaptive sound all upscale to use 11.1.4 channels. Adaptive sound historically is the mode I've found that keeps the fireworks but doesn't cheese out on you. It's the only AI-driven sound mode, so it will do a better job of adapting to content as it changes. You do have varying levels of EQ control depending on sound modes. Standard gives you 7 bands, though if you go standard with a soundbar and are meticulously adjusting EQ, get a traditional system already. The other modes offer only treble and bass adjusters. You have generous channel level control, 8 levers including center, surround, wide front, front height, the 3 channels on the surround speakers, so rear, rear surround, and rear height. The 8th is independent level control of the sub module. There are 2 modes with the surround speakers. You have rear mode, which is default, and a front mode, so the speaker's sound is rejiggered to some extent to adorn the front soundstage. I'll be giving that some attention in the sound quality chapter. Private rear sound, this is for night politeness and presents all the sound through the surround speakers. It's only an option in rear mode. Sound grouping. This makes music sound more uniform throughout the system and is meant for parties if you're popular enough to have those and or receive an invitation to one. These are called advanced sound settings, but ironically are the most unsophisticated and heavy-handed. So non-AI voice enhancement, just a blunt EQ boost as far as I can tell. Bass enhancement, same deal. Night mode, heavy-handed dynamic range control, it kills the bass. Virtual, used to boost surround sound with extra DSP, really meant for cases where you don't have surround speakers. It's not all that subtle. There is a new thing, moderate bass. When turned on, it just turns off the bass unit and puts a bit more of that onto the bar. This is not an adjustment you can make, but Samsung is calling its bass performance AI optimized. They were not calling it out in that way in previous models. Well, there are your options, or maybe just the volume clicker gets the job done. You do you. Speaking of the clicker, controls. Bar, remote, and app. The bar, it has an action button, which are for voice assistants mainly, volume up, down, and mic mute. The remote, it's unchanged. You can get most of the stuff done with a single button press or repeated presses, but if you're not easily placated, you can press that menu button and dig in with the D-pad. The app, the system doesn't do anything complicated enough to risk dragging it into the abyss. I'm talking about Sonos, unless I wasn't being clear. The main sound adjustments are all front and center. You can learn about advanced capabilities here in services and the more nitty-gritty stuff like auto power off and the user manual up here with the dots. Q-symphony. Yes, that thing. The feature that enables the TV sound to join in on the fun with up to 6.2.4 more channels with the highest end Samsung TVs. Up until last year, Q-symphony was just TV and soundbar system. Simple and clear cut. And then Samsung decided to sow utter chaos and introduce the Music Frame, which perhaps is not the most exciting speaker of all time, but may have a particular appeal to those trying to max their Samsung soundbar system setup as, other than the TV and soundbar, it's the only other sound maker you can add to expand Q-symphony. Awesome. 1 frame on the left and 1 frame on the right to broaden and separate the soundstage, with the soundbar holding down the dialogue. Well, unbeknownst to me, we were all crying out for the option to add just 1 frame to the mix. You know, if you wanted to keep your soundbar. Samsung's available information about how many frames are supported with Q-symphony is completely unacceptable. In the SmartThings app, Samsung, you show this image for the Q990F and the Q990C. What would a reasonable customer take from this? You can pick only 2 of 3 of those things? Well, of course they would think that. It's so obvious. Customer service says this in one line, and then because I know how to prod, get this message in the next response. You have this info somewhere in the bowels of Samsung.com, but this is out of date as I got the one frame thing working with a 22 TV and a 23 soundbar. Your new frame TVs say they support Q-Symphony Pro. Is there any description anywhere about what Q-Symphony Pro offers that non-Pro does not? Of course not. Best to leave to the customer's imagination. Your flagship TV, does that have Q-Symphony Pro? Who knows? It just says yes to Q-Symphony. Anyway, I believe adding 2 frames via Q-Symphony would be a major win if they can maintain stability. I'm tired of trying to figure out if 2 frames in a soundbar works in any one configuration. I'll review once another YouTube reviewer proves they got it working. Or when my humors settle, whichever one comes first. Okay, my humors have settled. I got a 2025 TV. You can play 2 frames and a soundbar with it, and the soundbar does not need to be the F. That review coming later. Sound quality. Okay, let's just get right to the sub. No more flirting and air kisses. I got a bit confused reviewing because sometimes I was thinking the sub sound was very satisfying and a clear step up, and other times, even with the woofer all the way up and bass boost on, the sub sounded like it went off to go hide. And I thought, did I just imagine it was good earlier? Keep this in mind. The sub's volume and which frequencies are the loudest are highly dependent on placement. Here is a curve where the mic is simulating me sitting about 9 feet away from the sub, maybe at a 60-degree angle and sitting straight up, probably a good 3.5 feet above the sub center. Here, I'm sitting about 7 feet away and laying back merely 2.5 feet above the sub center. I'm not claiming any of these as official curves, but rather I want to emphasize how placement matters. The 9 feet in high position was where I sat to review. I think this was a relatively flattering position for the sound. Okay, assuming your placement leads to an experience like mine, top headline, Samsung has taken the admirable Q900 series to the next level, and I'd give a big chunk of that credit to the reimagined sub. I thought the sub took a bit of a quality leap back in 2022 with the Q990B, but with this new sub, the high-performing bar is able to rest on a sturdier, more confident foundation. Compared to previous iterations, expect a similarly deep, punchier, less distorted, more controlled bass response. Like all the Q900 systems, the bar can get quite loud without distortion and has a certain aggressiveness that most other systems don't have the overhead to pull off. That is a standout capability. I remember seeing the volume number on the bar thinking it was 72 based on how loud it was, and then I changed my angle down and saw it was 22. The bar is still kind of nuts, but also, as with other Q900 systems, I don't think there is a standout sound quality that is pure amaze, where I think, ooh la la, other systems don't make me feel like that. The story continues to be, and even more firmly with the reworked but not miraculous sub, man, this system's just got it together. Just about every sound facet is well above to above average, and when you put all that above average together, that's where you get your remarkable, your special sauce. Just about every other system I can think of is more likely to have a pain point on the sound front. If there's a pain point with this system, it's gonna be mild. The foundation that really plays well over time and will help Samsung's Q900 series hold on to its cultural cachet is the decent bass, full mids, and robust dialogue. Atmospherics, 3D audio effects, directional effects are above average in the broader field, but not necessarily amongst flagships. Rather, Samsung, I sense, again, is not interested in compromising the core properties, the gravity of the sound, to make these more superficial layers fizzle and pop. You get them, but in a measured way, which means you're not going to hear those higher frequency details, crunchy sibilances as hot as some competitors. Sony and Bose products come to mind. Tweeters, which are particularly useful in creating that electric sounding atmosphere and broadening the sound world, are just placed in the front of the bar. So this is in stark contrast with the Sonos Ultra and Era 300s, for instance, that have more tweeters in total and more tweetery stuff firing off to the side, which differentiates the sound quite a bit. As such, you have a decision to make, a more fundamentals, balanced, measured profile, or one that takes more liberties to expand the sound world, yes, separate the atmospherics, exaggerate the height and directional effects, possibly at the expense of rich, well-constituted mids, the core, the abs. I'll admit I wouldn't mind a pinch more of the latter out of the Q990F. I could take a little more fizz. If this makes me a bad person, I'll eventually work it out with my maker. Movie scenes I appreciated. The beginning of Dune 2 with the alien voice and the voiceover from Princess Irulan.
Irulan.
The hit and clarity of the voices, the richness of the orchestration, and the ominous anxiety the composer wanted to evoke is served quite well with the F. It helps you to settle in with the confidence that you have a little movie theater that's just for you. One of my favorite test scenes is the conversation and culminating demise of Sapper Morton in Blade Runner 2049, as there is copious atmosphere, lush, deep tones in the dialogue, crackle and thump with wall impacts, deep, satisfying tones with the punches and eventual bullet shots. All intense, which the F leans that way anyway. So the difference between the D is a more reliable bass, the tails of less distortion ring true, and I'd say it's complemented with a slightly more separated dialogue. Consistently well balanced and measured, I keep using that phraseology, while maintaining its trademarked intensity. I'm at a bit of a loss for some straight up dirty, nasty flames to throw at this system. The closest I have is no one part of the sound expresses itself as a true standout. Okay, let's explore what putting the surrounds up front does. All the drivers in the soundbar still continue to fire when the surrounds are up front. The surrounds up front seem to play more surround audio than left and right, and they really seem to leave out a fair bit of foreground action. So you're not dealing with a straight left, center, right situation. I think it's a hidden perk, not talked about enough probably, especially for those really struggling to find a rear placement. I mean, yes, losing rear speakers is a big old bummer, but getting a significantly boosted front soundstage, a true cavernous sound when it's called upon, while keeping the center channel, it's a digestible consolation. Yes, the front is transformed, even if constituted a little strangely. Motion in the scene is more convincing, giving the front world much more life, bringing a type of immersion you don't get with surrounds in the back. The action is widened, which helps in the illusion of the action leaving the bounds of the TV. These are all very effective ways to flirt with me, but yet it's just a tease of what could be if they offered another set to get the back. If you want the best Samsung soundbar system music experience, it's the F with the surrounds up front. It does a good job of getting the song off mono as the surrounds take on role of left and right in two-channel music, which is largely redundant with the bar, so not ideal, but on the main, seems to work out pretty well. With Dolby Atmos music, the surrounds take less of the vocals, but you'll still hear them in those speakers. The front sound with music is big and wide, much better imaging, clear vocals. The sound profile, as with cinema, pays proper attention to the lower mids to keep the sound from getting chilly. However, if the song is particularly complex, layered, asynchronous, purposefully interjects distortion, like say Bon Iver's new Sable Fable album, the razor's edge that kind of music plays on stumbles over itself with the untraditional speaker arrangement, so you will get some uggos from time to time. The front sound is generally quite fun, but it's far from optimized or super sophisticated. The switch back and forth is instantaneous, so nothing too complicated could be going on. Maybe in the future, Samsung will give it a bit more care. Wrap up. What can I say? Samsung done good. They delivered their most complete soundbar system package to date, hurdling a high bar, especially at the price range the Q900 series typically dips to. As with the D, nothing about this system floors me, takes me to soundbar places I've never been before, but I was quite impressed with the experience from just about every angle. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did not place the 900 sound particularly high against the Quad or Dragon or Arc Ultra. The lack of wide separation up front and the sub-elite 3D audio, middling bass, kind of kept it off the very top shelf for me. Has that changed significantly with the F? How will this stack up to the Klipsch Flexus Core 300 or Nakamichi Shockwave 11.2.6? Or does Q-symphony and adding a pair of frames change the story? Subscribe and find out while I explore this throughout the year. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.